Following video is brought to you by the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please consider liking and subscribing for more Boston sports content.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the final. I got them winning without.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Colin, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that, you don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again to say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift, now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86, to the truth in 08. Cement your name with the all-time greats. Still banner 18 in the Raptors. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Can't nobody do it like Boston.
Well, I'm just gonna say it from the jump. We are bummed out. We're depressed. It's a bad day. It's a sad day to be a Celtics fan. I'm Ryan at 19_low Twitter. It's the Dynasty Proud podcast brought to you by BSEN. We're here with Cam Manning to break down the basketball from last night, but obviously we have other issues to talk about. You all know what it is. I don't really have to say it, but if I could avoid saying it, I would. Jayson Tatum has ruptured his Achilles tendon, and the Celtics are down 3-1 to the New York Knicks. And Cam, normally this is the part where I ask how you are, but I already know the answer.
Listen, man, I couldn't even do my thing that I usually do at the start of this because there's nothing to do this about. It all really came down very much mourning with Celtics Nation about the loss of a superstar. And man, it's one thing to be down 3-1 in the series based on play alone, but to be down 3-1 and having someone who's really contributed from day one in Tatum and being one of the few Iron Man left in the league to having this injury happen is just really devastating, not just for Celtics Nation, but for the NBA in general. I was saying to you just before we went on, uttered the F 4-letter word at least 7 or 8 times at the TV when I heard Mike Breen say that Tatum is hurt and writhing in pain after OG Anunoby stole the ball and finished that basket to put the Knicks up by 9. At that point, you had a sense that the game was tilting in the Knicks' favor. I mean, 3 or so minutes left to go. The Celtics had to play perfect from there on out to make it a game. But again, that's not the story at this point, at this time. Celtics being down 3-1 is a story for sure, but the bigger story and the bigger overarching storyline is obviously the Tatum injury. And I think it goes to without saying that we, as well as Celtics Nation, wish Jayson Tatum the best in his recovery. And prayers up that it goes smoothly. Can't wait to see him get back out on the court, but just absolutely brutal all around last night. Absolutely brutal.
I kind of said to you before we hopped on off the air, it's quite literally the worst case scenario for any sports fan. Your season's now just about over. And on top of that, you lose your best player in Jayson Tatum with an injury, and the outlook of the team significantly changes going forward forever. So like I said, I guess we can start with the basketball and then we'll get into the big picture stuff, but they're down 3-1 coming back to Boston. I guess the big question is the series truly over?
My gut tells me that it's not, just from the talent standpoint. You still have Jaylen Brown, who this discourse has always been. He's always been that 1A, 1B type player. But now he gets to prove where his money's at. Put the money where his mouth is, sort of thing. Can he be that leader? Can he be that alpha? Now that Tatum's out. I have my doubts. just because Tatum really kind of takes the pressure off Brown, and Brown kind of takes the pressure off Tatum. So lot going on the back of Jaylen Brown, but I do think from a pure talent perspective, I think the Celtics still have a better roster than the Knicks, purely based on just a talent perspective. But you got to play the human element into this, Ryan. That's just a huge wind out of your sails type thing to go down last night. Losing your superstar player, who, like I mentioned off the top, is just one of the few Ironmen left in the league. And it just, you can't take the human element out of it. If you want to look at it from an optimist sort of perspective, which I know it's very hard for Celtics fans to do with the news happening in the past 24 hours, but they could rally behind this and put it to the Knicks at the Garden and play for Jayson Tatum. You can definitely see that coming from this team potentially, but it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. The Knicks, from a pure basketball standpoint, have looked mentally more tough than the Celtics, have hit big shots and big moments where the Celtics haven't. They've executed down the stretch, and major props to the Knicks players. Brunson, especially, he had another terrific third quarter, second half yesterday. 18 points by himself in the third quarter. But again, we go back to when we did the pod last week, Ryan. These are more Celtics losses than Knicks wins at this point. And I think last night is the same boat. You have a double-digit lead at halftime, and then you just go cold from three. The team throws a punch after hanging around, and you don't have a response for it. And now you're down 3-1, season basically over, and now you lost your superstar for the rest of the postseason and the whole entire 2025-2026 season. So my pessimistic, realist view is that the Celtics don't have enough left in the tank to surpass the Knicks in this series from just a pure mental standpoint, because that injury was so gruesome and deflating. But I could see them rallying to win Game 5 and then losing on Madison Square Garden floor in Game 6. I just, from a human perspective, I don't think they got it. But I could be completely off base on that. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that. If you think they have enough to rally.
I tend to feel the same way. I thought in real time the injury was so devastating. Like, I mean, it was devastating to me as a fan. And I mentioned to you before we hopped on, like I was going to kind of tell a story of myself watching that game last night. I'm sitting on the couch with my fiance, and we're like, you know, the game's obviously getting out of hand for the Celtics, and it's going the wrong way to begin with. And then Tatum goes down, and it all spirals from there. And I swear, you know, I think I turned the TV off with about a minute and a half left, because I'm like, I'm not watching any more of this. Like, I just can't do it. And after that point, I'm pretty sure we both just sat there in silence for like 30 minutes. Like, I just couldn't bring myself to speak. It was like, this is awful. This is a terrible, horrible experience for a sports fan. It does not get worse than this right here. Now, with that said, having had time to reflect on it, the series is not over objectively. It's 3-1. Knicks have to win that fourth one, and the Celtics do still have talent. Problem is that talent has been playing like absolute garbage, and Jaylen Brown hasn't been good enough. He hasn't been awful, but he hasn't been good enough. Kristaps Porzingis does not look right. You have to chalk it up to a combination of probably the injury and illness thing that's been bugging him all season. Derek White shows up in spurts and then goes away, but that's how he is all the time, and that's fine. He's not supposed to be your star. Holiday and Horford looked old for one of the first times in a long time. Everything's going wrong for this team to be able to say that they're going to rally and win a series in this situation. They might win tomorrow night. I'm not going to rule that out. I don't think they win the series. But now, speaking specifically about the Knicks, something that has kind of bothered me for a while now is people have been writing off the Knicks as some trash team that has no talent. And that's just objectively not true. Like, they're clearly talented. They have talented players. Now, they're not necessarily my type of players that I would want on my team. Like Brunson is great offensively. He can't defend, but Towns is soft, but he's a scorer. Yep. Bridges and Hart, I don't think they give you enough that like those are the type of guys that I think I'd want to have in my starting lineup, but whatever. They're still talented. So the people that say that the Knicks have absolutely no talent, I just can't. I won't listen to you because it's not true. Now, with that said, it would be very New York Knicks for them to blow this. Like, I would love to see, number one, the Celtics get a game at home tomorrow night. But then if that happens, maybe it gets in the Knicks' heads. I don't know. I would love to see that. So, as we've been talking about, it feels like the season is over, but it's not really. And they do still have to play. And I'm hoping they can try and pull it out. That would be really cool to see. I would love to see them rally around it, but I'm not going to get my hopes up, I guess, is the point.
Yeah, no, for sure. And kind of piggybacking off of that point, again, I'm not one of those people, those super pessimistic fans that doesn't want to watch more Celtics basketball, of course, but again, your entire season perspective outlook changes, right? With Jayson Tatum going down, obviously, if they somehow find a way to navigate and maybe win this series in 7 games, that's great. But this isn't the NBA Finals, right? You still have 2 more series left to win. And, I just don't see a road or a path where they get there without Jayson Tatum being healthy. That being said, we're just talking, it's May 13th, about 6:41 p.m. We're talking about the Knicks series itself. I agree with you. I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, the Knicks do have a lot of pedigree in terms of big game stuff with Brunson and playing big college games, and obviously, OG Anunoby being an NBA champion and Mikal Bridges going to an NBA Finals. So I don't think that the Knicks would squander this, but it would be so Knicks to do it. It would be so Knicks to do it, going up 3-1, and everything. The sky is falling for Celtics Nation, and I would love to see them rally and do it. I just, from a pessimistic point of view, I just don't see the long-term. Not saying they should pack it in, but I'm just saying that, like, they're good enough to win this series or make it a series if they win tomorrow, but I just don't see how you beat Indiana or Cleveland, whoever comes out of that series. And by God, they cannot match up against any Western Conference team if Jayson Tatum is not on the roster and playing elite basketball. So it's a gut punch, but it would be, if we're just talking specifically about this series, it would be an uplifting, encouraging sign that the team didn't quit and forced a game, even just a game 6. I would love to see them come out and execute tomorrow night just for the sole fact of what happened in the past 24 hours. I think it'd be really uplifting. I think the fans will be behind everyone tomorrow night. And I think that they'll exert their will and hopefully, again, like to your point, squeeze it out. But again, like you said earlier, the guys that have the supporting cast, I wouldn't necessarily put Jaylen Brown in the supporting cast category, but he hasn't been his usual self. Kristaps Porzingis is 7'3", 7'4", and he can't finish around the rim. Like, he lost his touch. There was a couple of layups in the second half that maybe scratched my head. He is literally, his forehead is touching the rim, and he cannot finish the layup.
The thing that bothered me the most with him last night was fourth quarter, games slipping away, and he gets to the free throw line, and he has a chance to cut it to, I think it's 3. I don't remember specifically off the top of my head.
He goes 0 for 2 from the line.
He misses both. Like, you just can't have that. That was a gut punch.
Yeah, and that just kept unraveling from there. Just kept unraveling. He missed that layup, and he got a late whistle on that call. I believe Towns fouled him or it was OG because they were battling for an offensive rebound, and Porzingis went up with it, and they were in the bonus, I think. But again, you can't have him go 0 for 2 there, especially when the last couple of possessions have been pretty stagnant, and you need points. You need to manufacture points in that possession to keep the game within striking distance, and you go 0 for 2. Then I believe that following sequence, I believe the Knicks hit 2 mid-range shots back-to-back. I think it was Brunson and Bridges. Then Joe called a timeout, and then after that, the out of timeout play is when Tatum got hurt and they turned it over. So just like an unfortunate set of circumstances. And not to mention, speaking on Tatum, that dude was balling in that game.
I know.
He was on another level. I'm talking game 6 on the road versus Milwaukee. Gotta have it. Nothing but net. Game 7 versus Philadelphia on Mother's Day. Like, you put that performance leading up to prior to his injury, because at that point, like we said at the beginning, the game was kind of getting out of hand. The Knicks were up 9 after that OG Anunoby layup with 3 minutes left. The game was kind of lost at that point. But Jayson Tatum, man, you talk about a guy putting his life on the line for this team. 42 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks on 57, 43, and 100 splits. I mean, you can't ask for more than that from your star player. Dude was just throwing dagger after dagger, keeping you in this game. He was going nuclear, especially in that third quarter where the game kind of slipped away. He was tremendous in that third quarter, and the Celtics still got outscored by 14. Like, the rest of the players failed him, including Jaylen Brown last night. I'm not trying to be blunt about it, but I mean, 42 points on really good efficiency from that guy who has had his moments in the playoffs. It's just so demoralizing knowing that this guy left it out all on the line and now he's got a career-altering injury to top it. He did nothing to deserve it at that end because the Celtics were not helping him out in any case. So just really deflating, really frustrating.
And just to sum it up, I mean, it's fitting that the injury happened on a play where he is diving after a loose ball, just trying to keep him in the game because he knows they need it. And that's just who he is as a player. And somehow that lands him in this situation where he's obviously now suffered a major career-altering injury, which, you know, we can get into the specifics of it. The official news is he's already undergone a successful surgery to repair the torn right Achilles tendon. There's a tweet here from Adam Himmelsbach of the Globe. It says, per source, test Tuesday revealed Tatum's Achilles rupture, and the decision was made to operate immediately because it leads to more favorable outcomes. And a source said that complications with these procedures are common, so the C's were relieved that Tatum's was clean. So if you're looking for any kind of silver lining whatsoever, you know, they are saying that he's expected to make a full recovery. But it's obviously the end of the season for him this year and probably the entire 2025-2026 season. And the concern that you have to have as a result of that, which we can get into, and I'm just posing the question, is will he be the same guy when he comes back, and who will even be here when he does?
Ryan, I put this down in the notes section of our doc. I saw a tweet from Adam Kaufman that was really sort of summed it up for me. I think it's best case scenario for the long term is what happened with Kevin Durant in the 2019 finals versus Toronto. He'd had this very similar injury, Achilles tear, came back, played an elite level. And I think the thing that's a silver lining as well with Tatum is that he's just 27. Durant was 30 when it happened. It's not like Tatum is 34 towards the tail end of his career and he suffered this injury. He's 27 years old. Granted, it's super frustrating that this guy is just entering the prime of his career that has this injury. But if you're looking for silver linings with all of this, I think Tatum, just due to the fact that the player he is playing 91% of all of his regular season games, only missing one postseason game, he plays a lot of basketball. Okay? We fail to mention this. This dude has been to so many Eastern Conference finals, deep playoff runs. Not to mention that he lost in the finals one year, came back, went to a finals, won a finals. Then he had to play with Team USA. Granted, he didn't get a lot of minutes in Paris, but still putting wear and tear on the body. Dude's played a lot of basketball, and he still shows up 91% of the time to play his games. I think with that persona and that personality trait, I do expect him to make a full recovery and be that same guy. Maybe he has a chip on his shoulder to ascend to that next level to make up for lost time. again, we're talking about a guy that hates sitting out games throughout the regular season. Brad Stevens literally have to strap him to a chair to not let him play in games. Even if he doesn't care if it's Charlotte, he doesn't care if it's Utah, he doesn't care if it's Philadelphia. He plays games, and he's been vocal about it in multiple interviews that the reason he plays is because kids and people pay to see him play. And again, in an era in the NBA where load management has really taken over throughout the regular season, Tatum is not that guy. He shows up, he plays. He may have off nights where he's not superstar level efficiency, has a couple of bad plays, but he's there. He shows up in big moments, and he shows up for his team. And I fully expect him to make a recovery. It's going to be a long road. Don't get me wrong. I cannot speak to it. I am not a professional athlete. I'm just a co-host on a podcast. I've never had a significant sports injury. Thank God, knock on wood. But I think with Tatum's personality and persona, I think this is one setback for a major comeback for him. I expect him to come back with a full vengeance. But to your point at the tail end of your second question, the team outlook is going to be different, obviously, because we can get into this now, or we can get into this a little later, but it's been noted by the national media, Shams Charania, obviously releasing a story in round one of the playoffs, which is really odd, especially when the Celtics are trying to repeat as champs. This comes out. Obviously, the local media, the national media are very well aware the Celtics have a new owner, and the financial ramifications of getting under the second apron in the luxury tax are in full effect. Again, I am no math person. My last math class was in 2018, so I have no idea what the ramifications are, what the numbers are. But long story short, the Celtics need to get shed money to avoid a tax penalty. So from the team outlook, I think you're talking about a team next year without KP, without Drew Holiday, and Celtics fans may not like to admit it, but I've seen a couple of rumors, whistles in the air about potentially moving from Jaylen Brown due to the lost season. He is making the most actual money guaranteed on the team. So he is like, you look at it, he is the immediate short-term fix of like trying to get under that financial stress. But again, as a Celtics fan who loves Jaylen Brown, who's watched him ascend into a second-team All-NBA player, third-team All-NBA player, you hate to part ways because you don't want to kind of pull the plug on something just because of one minor setback with Tatum's injury. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how the team shapes up next year following this.
Yeah, and we can dive into the specifics if you want. The players that they're going to have under contract for next year, just to go down the list, it's Brown, Holiday, Porzingis, White, Hauser, Pritchard, Shireman, Tillman, Keita, Davidson, and Walsh, obviously outside of Tatum. And they're going to have to shed some of that, like you said. So it's a scary proposition. And you add the fact that Al Horford is a free agent. Luke Cornett is a free agent. Whether you care about Torrey Craig and Drew Peterson, I don't know. I don't. But we've talked, like you said, about the second apron and the implications of all that for the salary cap for the coming years. And they're going through an ownership transition, and they're now going to be without their best player for the entire season. And the championship hopes for next year are a lot lower than they were before last night. So I do think there's a possibility that they have real serious conversations about something bigger. Like you said, whether it's Jaylen or whatever it might be, you're not moving off Tatum. There's a couple guys that have contracts that are so favorable, Pritchard, Shireman, Derek White, like you're not going to move those guys because it just wouldn't make any sense. But everybody else to me is expendable because, I think you'd be better off almost treating next year as, and again, we're assuming that this season is over. Like it's not, technically. So there are still games left to play, but assuming that they aren't able to pull off something miraculous, that's kind of where we're looking at it. But with Tatum specifically, as you said, he's played just about the maximum amount of basketball that you can over the last 18 to 20 months or so, having gone all the way to the finals and then playing in the Olympics and then going into the playoffs again and not really missing a whole lot of games in between there. But based on his age, his talent level, his work ethic and all that, I don't really see a way that he doesn't come back as at the very least like 90% of the player that he was. Like that would be worst case, I think. He might be a step slower. And by the time he comes back, he's basically going to be 2 years older because we're assuming he's not playing next year. And then he wouldn't be back until the season starts again in October of 26. But again, silver linings in all this, he does not have to rush his recovery by any means, which I don't think he would do anyway. But he's got all of next year and the offseason of next year to rehab and get back. So again, just sort of a small positive thing to look at. But like you said, I think now we have to look at what the Celtics will be in the 25-26 season, who stays, who's gone. Brad Stevens has his work cut out for him. That's for sure.
Yep. I just think that, again, looking purely from a Google Sheets perspective, because I did see someone on Twitter did post the Google Sheet of the salary cap ramifications, who's making the money, who's up after this year, who's up after next year. And the most glaring way to clear cap, again, Celtics fans don't want to hear this, but it's Jaylen Brown. And again, I've not that Boston sports media, local Boston sports media is gospel or anything, but I do find it interesting to find out. And I was going to mention this about the draft lottery, just tying that in real quick. I mean, what a rigged thing that was yesterday. But
I mean, it's obvious, right? It's totally obvious.
It's scripted. Like, they're not even hiding it. They're not even hiding the fact that it's scripted. But my thought process is, and I'm not trying to be Bleacher Report or any of these major news outlets trying to play mock trade machine or anything, but, Houston Rockets are sitting pretty in the top 10, and you got the Ime Udoka connection there. They need offense. You got the familiarity with Jaylen Brown, the Celtics. Would you kind of, again, I'm not for this. I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing out options because I love Jaylen Brown, and I love what he brings to the table. Finals MVP last year, super clutch. Has grown every year since he's been in the league in a positive way. I would love to see them stick with Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, but it's not my money. So, it's not my decision to have that happen. I'm just thinking from a creative outlook perspective on how to build a contender. If you lose an all-star player like Jaylen Brown, those just don't grow on trees. You got to hit on the draft. You got to develop. You got to make trades. You got to be strategic about this. So, again, we're kind of, with this Tatum injury, you're kind of having these conversations now in local and national media. Do the Celtics forego an all-star player like Jaylen Brown to try and accumulate assets that are cheaper to get them under the second apron while still accumulating young talent around Tatum so that when he does come back, and use next year as kind of like a retool year, see what guys are players and what guys are not. I expect Baylor Shireman to have a bigger role next year, maybe even more J.D. Davidson if Drew Holiday departs, get to see him more in action. Sense what you have with the team and then hit the ground running in 26-27 when you have Tatum back. Again, you need players around him. And again, the financial implications suck. And it's not an easy conversation. That's why I'm not a GM. That's why I'm not an owner of a team. I don't make those tough decisions. I just talk about them from a realistic sense. But it will be interesting surrounding Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis, who I think is more than 90% gone. The problem with Kristaps Porzingis is that his value is at an all-time low. with the way he's performing in these playoffs, his injury history. Obviously, this virus is very concerning from a personal level, but from a GM's perspective in the NBA, why would you trade anything of significance for a guy that's battled injuries, been dealing with this virus, hasn't really shown up in these playoffs, but probably still has something left in the tank? I don't know. I've said it numerous times on this podcast. Kristaps Porzingis is one of the most fun players to watch when he's actually on the floor and actually being a two-way force that he can be when he's healthy. So my easiest kind of solution to this problem with the salary cap is just to say goodbye to KP, say goodbye to Drew, and assess after that. But again, it's not really, it takes two to tango in these situations. It's not really as cut and dry as just saying, okay, goodbye Drew Holiday, goodbye KP. Drew Holiday, despite having such a great career, is getting older. He is 34, 35, somewhere in that range. And like you said at the beginning of this pod, they showed their age. Drew Holiday and Al Horford showed their age yesterday. And, you know, it's hard to bargain with the team. Maybe you try to get him to a one-piece glue guy championship team, missing that one player that has that pedigree. But again, it's not as simple as I'm making it out to be. You know, it can't just be like, buy KP, buy Drew. You got to have a partner in this trade discussion. But again, we're getting far ahead of ourselves in this, but it is something to bring of light due to the fact of yesterday's results. So
I think the thing that sucks the most about this for me, as I'm just thinking about it in real time, is that we never could have known going into this game that it was going to be the last time that we see this iteration of the Celtics. Like, going into that game, like, I'm thinking about, you know, when like Kobe was retiring, right? Like, you knew that going into his last game, and you got to watch and appreciate and say, wow, I really want to soak all this in. We didn't know any of that going into this game, that this was going to be kind of the end of it for what we know it to be at this point. And I think that's really depressing because, like, we don't know where this is going to go. We don't know what the roster is going to look like. I don't know what the draft is going to look like next year or where they're going to land, whether they're even going to be a playoff team, if they're going to trade somebody. Like, we're not going to know any of that, and we can't. So now we're just stuck in this holding pattern. We're in shock about the injury and the devastation surrounding that. But then on top of that, you have to think long-term, like, what is this team going to look like? And it's bumming me out, honestly. Like, I didn't think I still had this level of emotion in me for sports, but I'm like, going through my work day today, I'm just like, I'm sad. I'm bummed out. This is rough.
yeah, I think from just a pure fan perspective, it really just, it's gut-wrenching. It really is gut-wrenching, especially to your point that you just made, that it's sudden. It's so sudden. And now now you're thinking not just, oh, how are we going to navigate this playoff series? Oh, but this is the last time that KP, JB, JT may be on the floor all at the same time together. Like, this team that came in with high championship aspirations, who were the favorite to repeat for the title this year, all of a sudden went from second worst odds to win it overnight with Tatum going down. I think the Knicks jumped to like second behind OKC maybe to win the title in odds on FanDuel or DraftKings, just in an instant, just in a snap of one finger with Tatum going down. And to your point, you don't know until you know, but I mean, it just sucks. It just really, there's not really much else to say other than it just is really deflating, depressing. It sucks. All the negative words in the English dictionary could not sum it up. As a Celtics fan who has had his dad idolize Larry Bird growing up, I watched Paul Pierce growing up, but never really got a chance, to your point, appreciate the greatness that was in front of me. Tatum was that first guy who I really saw blossom as a player. I could mentally, cognitively watch him grow as a player and appreciate all of the stuff that he did, showing up for games, being a big time performer, growing into the player and person that he is. And this no drama guy just shows up when he has to, enjoys the game of basketball. It's really gut wrenching because other fans and other teams experience these superstar players and the baggage that they carry. From a pure Celtics fan perspective, I don't really classify Tatum as a high baggage player. He doesn't really come off as, a lot of baggage comes with him as a player, like low drama person, shows up when he needs to, puts in the work. Again, I don't track all these other superstars as closely as I do my own superstar, but that's just from a 30,000 foot view. I mean, all I see is these headlines with Anthony Edwards and LeBron James and everything. And, this discourse is like, I mean, Tatum's not really a fiery guy, but he's a guy that shows up and does his job. And, it's really hard to sit with the fact that he's losing 2 years of his prime to this injury. And again, and the uncertainty factor, like you just mentioned, we don't know if he's going to be the same guy. Like, we just don't know. We don't know the draft implications. We don't know what the team's going to look like when he's back, which is really scary. But it's an unfortunate part of the sports world, man. It just sucks sometimes. And sometimes you don't really realize how good something is until you don't have it anymore or have it for a long time. And I feel like this is just a prime example of that. I think we as Celtics fans have been really spoiled and blessed to watch so many great players. In my lifetime especially, got to go from Paul Pierce, KG, Ray Allen to watching Isaiah Thomas carry this team, and then Al Horford coming here in free agency. And then they signed Gordon Hayward. That didn't work out as well. They got Kyrie Irving. They went to Kemba Walker. They obviously drafted Jayson and Jalen. And they got Porzingis and obviously reached the mountaintop. And it just sucks because, again, kind of summing up my long rant that I just had, it's just these guys came in with expectations to repeat. You're talking about a team that when they won last year, you're thinking like, oh, this has three-peat potential. But now you're looking at it, it's like these guys, it's very similar to 08-09 when they won, and then Garnett got injured in 09, and it kind of faulted everything, and everything kind of went downhill from there. I'm hoping history doesn't repeat itself in that sense, but this is kind of what it reminds me of. So, again, just praying for a healthy Jayson Tatum coming back as soon as possible, but just hoping for his health and well-being to be all right and good, and for him to come back and play basketball again would be nice to see.
It's going to be sweet when he comes back. That's for sure. He's going to get that first home game at TD Garden. The standing ovation for Jayson Tatum is going to be something to see. So, again, if we're looking for positive things, that's something that we have to look forward to, 18 months from now. But got to wait a while between now and then. So I didn't have anything else on my list of stuff to talk about, but is there anything else you wanted to hit on before we get out of here? I know you mentioned the lottery quickly, but.
Yeah, the lottery it's just, how fitting is that, huh? How fitting is that with all the Nico Harrison hate and all the drama that surrounded that Mavs team this year with trading Luka Doncic unexpectedly, him going to LA, them making the playoffs, them being the Lakers, the Mavs stuck into the play-in but got trounced. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it. They're not even trying to hide the fact that it's scripted. And I think report came out today from one of the ESPN guys saying that they do plan on sticking with the pick and taking Cooper Flagg with the number one overall pick. I mean, it would be so Nico Harrison to turn on the Mavs fans and be like, all right, we got the number one overall pick. You want to feel any more pain? We're going to trade this pick. We're going to trade it.
But I think the reason that we know that's not going to happen is because I don't think Nico Harrison was making any of these decisions. I don't think
he's the ultimate fall guy for all what's happening.
He's the face of it, but I don't think he had any say in the Luka trade. I don't think he had anything to do with any of it. Like, I think he just happens to, he's the GM in name only to me. Like, I don't think he's doing anything. I don't know. We're
Just a
looking at it,
puppet.
obviously.
The owner's pulling the strings.
We're obviously looking at it from the outside. I don't know these people, but that's just the way it seems. So, all right. Well, we didn't want to talk about any of this, but we did, and hopefully,
I gotta go cry. I gotta go cry for a little bit.
Hopefully, the boys maybe get one at home for JT tomorrow night. I like I said before, I would love to see them pull one off, make it interesting, put some pressure on the Knicks. I'm just not going to get my hopes up. As I said before, the game's at 7:00 tomorrow night on TNT. It might be the last game of the season for us Celtics fans, and then we'll be out of our misery if that's true, and we'll just get to gear up for the offseason. But if not, then maybe we got something to watch. But like I said, as long as there's nothing else, obviously, we will just go ahead and get out of here. So until next time, for Cam and myself, we will catch you later.
Ends tonight here. It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.